David Bailey. And David, the big story on everyone's minds this week, Doug Henry. Now, you've talked to him on the phone. How's he doing?
Well, believe it or not, he and his wife Stacy are in very good spirits. They remain very optimistic, and it was a major blow. For those of you that didn't catch our action last week, he jumped. It was the equivalent of jumping out of like a 4-story building that broke the frame. I mean, it's incredible that he didn't have a more serious injury, but it was an injury to his low back. And they went in and did a 12-hour operation, very tedious and revolutionary type operation, where they replaced that vertebrae with a titanium basket. So he's very strong in that area now. The operation was a success, and the subject of riding and racing and it really didn't come up, but I can tell you that he's thinking about this race today.
Well, of course he is. He's won it the last 2 years, and of course our thoughts and prayers are with Doug and his family. But there is a race today, and as far as a hometown favorite, I guess you got to look at John Dowd.
That's right. John Dowd is definitely a home crowd favorite, and I don't think that he's had the season that he would have expected, or Yamaha. He's got the factory ride now. We thought that would make the difference, but here's a great opportunity to get some momentum under his belt.
But it's going to be tough. What about the weather?
Well, it's a sauna out there right now. It's very humid, and this is the roughest track in the country, and it just gets rougher all day long. So searching for good lines, and of course the riders that are in the best shape today will shine.
Well, it should be a pretty good race. We'll have both motos for you coming up very shortly. First, let's take a look at the track.
Well, this track is a lot like last week at Budds Creek. Same layout, up and down through the woods, but the difference is here it's all sand, and the starting line has a cement starting grid, so that's going to give the riders a lot of problems.
I guess you can rock it right off the start. You hit that sand, it slows you way down, doesn't it?
Slows you way down. You get a lot of wheel spin on the cement starting grid right here. You see guys with all different kinds of tricks. They try to sweep it off. They try to put sand on it. They try to heat the tire, and none of it really seems to work.
Well, there you get a good look at Jeremy McGrath, the current points leader. 2 overall victories this year. He leads Jeff Emig in the standings by a slim 13 points. And David heating up the tires, getting ready to go.
Well, Rocco trying to heat it up, but you wear the knobs out a little bit. So in the sand track, you need all the knob you can get.
Signboard goes down. 40 of the best riders in the world getting set for the start of round 5 here at Southwick. The gate drops. One rider having problems at the start, but here they go up the hill. See who gets the whole shot. Looks like Jeff Emmig's come out on top, and look, John Dowd around to the outside. Jeremy trying to go on the inside of Emig.
Also, Larry Ward right in there looked like 4th place. A good start for him, and McGrath already pulling a tearaway, so vision on this wet sand track is going to be a problem today.
Right now, it looks like Dowd is settled into 2nd place behind his teammate Jeff Emig, who is at the point. Jeremy McGrath off to a pretty good start as he is riding along in the 3rd spot.
I don't think he likes looking at the back of 2 Yamahas, and he doesn't want. It's kind of good, though, in a way, because maybe since John Dowd's ridden here quite a bit, Jeremy in the first couple laps can learn a few things from him and then go after Emig.
Well, John Dowd last year here at Southwick finished 3rd, a 4 and a 3, 3rd place overall. Right now he's riding in 2nd. We talked about Doug Henry being the hometown favorite. With Dowd from Chicopee, Massachusetts, of course, has a lot of fans here cheering him on, and that's got to give him a lot of momentum.
Well, I think he needs that momentum right now in the series, just for his own confidence level, and it would look good to Yamaha. He had such a good season last year, and with the factory ride this year, he really hasn't, I don't think, proved that to anybody that that was the difference that he needed. And right now, Jeremy doesn't seem to be putting too much pressure on him. I think he's just content to learn. And remember that the riders haven't seen this track since practice, so it's a lot rougher, and it'll take them a lap or 2 to get adjusted to it.
Well, you get a good shot there of the sand as it flies up as they come off of that berm. And how difficult is it to maneuver this bike through some of the sandier portions?
Well, you can see their riding position. They stand quite a bit more than they would on a normal racetrack. And the front end wants to dive in the corners, and you can see that corner right there. There's an inside little rut, and then there's a big berm around the outside. And even though it's sandy, it's still very slick. There's some hard packed sections, and just to try to keep traction and find good lines, it's going to take them a lap or 2. Once they do, they'll be going pretty fast.
So you try and keep the weight off the front wheel, on
right.
the back wheel for traction.
You see the riders riding a little bit further to the back, and like I said, and standing up more. You would never see what Jeremy did right there, sitting that far back on the seat. Oh, big jam there.
Problems, and look at that 114. That's Damon Bradshaw, and looks like he's connected to another bike. I can't quite get the number plate on the other bike. But Damon off to a terrible start. That's John Sebastian Roy, who he was tangled with. And that's going to drop Damon all the way back to the 40th spot here on the opening lap. This edition of ESPN Speed World is brought to you by Honda. Welcome back to Motocross 338, Southwick, Massachusetts. In the opening laps, Art Ekman down in the pits, David Bailey, John Kernan up top. Jeff Emig is leading. And David, you said it kind of surprised you that he's leading John Dowd, his Yamaha teammate.
Well, it does. This is John Dowd's home track, and he looks like he's riding pretty good. He's taking good lines, and I think Brian Berry, that's his mechanic. He's probably wondering what's up, too. That's the mechanics of these two riders, and right now, Dowd's getting schooled by Jeff Emig. He's running away with it.
What do you think Brian was talking to Steve Butler, Emig's mechanic, about?
I have no idea. I think they would stand somewhere pretty far apart when you got your two riders. I mean, it's a team, but it's still an individual effort, and I wouldn't want to share a whole lot of information at this point.
So you're not making any predictions, kind of like Mike LaRocco Sr.?
No, but if I had to, Jeremy McGrath is pretty close to these guys, and as long as he's in striking distance, he's a threat.
McGrath sitting in the third spot, right on the tail of John Dowd. There's Todd DeHoop. A great start for him as he is in the fourth spot, and right behind him, Greg Albertine in the fifth spot. And after that bout with the chicken pox, Albertine has seemed to be getting his strength back, don't you think?
Well, he certainly looks strong right here. It looks like DeHoop just left the door wide open right there, and Albertine rode right through it. I had the chicken pox when I was 24 years old. It was miserable. I was itching, and he was itching last week, I'm sure. This week he'll have sand in his pants. So he's not too comfortable out there. And behind these two is Kedrowski, who's starting to move up. So they'll get company in a minute.
I know a lot of people have been saying since Hangtown, what has happened to Mike Kedrowski? He seemed to have faded off the picture. Not really quite sure if he's just maybe become complacent as his career progresses. I don't really know. Maybe we'll find out that answer. We'll have to ask him about that one day and see. Or maybe he's just had some physical problems that he's not told anyone about. But it seems like he has not been up to snuff, but he certainly is making a charge toward the front right now. Kedrowski currently riding along in the sixth spot. He's trying to chase down DeHoop and then set his sights on this man, Greg Albertine, number 111, who has moved. Oh, and look at Kedrowski coming around a little too hard. The wheel washed out, and he dumps the bike. It seems to happen to him every week, something like this.
Well, this is a replay, and that's the sand for you right there. He's just not up in the berm. He's a little bit inside of it where it's a lot more slick, and he just lost the front end right there. And you can see there's little rocks all in that sand. And those are buried in there. They can catch you off guard. Definitely caught him off guard.
And there's Mike LaRocco, who is trying to charge his way through the pack. He got off to a terrible start, and he is trying to chase down, I guess that's Kedrowski. Kedrowski fell. You can see how bad a start LaRocco was off to. Kedrowski fell, and he's just now catching up with his Kawasaki teammate.
Well, that's a typical LaRocco start, really. Anything inside the top 10 is a good start for him, and he's pretty good at working his way through the pack. It just makes his job a lot tougher, and he's good at momentum, and that's what you need in the sand. If you noticed when you watch Mike, he doesn't slow down a whole lot, and he'll take whatever line he needs to keep his speed up.
Well, Kedrowski lost only one spot with that fall. He was riding sixth. He is now seventh behind Brian Austin, a local rider, number 71 out of Dewsbury, Massachusetts. But look at the two Kawasaki teammates team up on Brian Austin as they try to battle for that sixth spot. Three wide as they come around the turn. Kedrowski on the inside. There's LaRocco. Now LaRocco cuts it back to the inside, and they push Austin out. And Austin goes outside and loses 2 spots. I guess that's a matter of experience, isn't it?
Well, it's a matter of these two guys being a freight train. They're both aggressive right now, racing against each other and riding a very fast pace, but they're only, barely inside the top 10 right now. And last year, these guys swapped moto wins. So they have the speed and the experience to go fast here at Southwick, but the leaders are gone.
Well, Kedrowski, I said he might be riding complacently. Well, it doesn't look like that now. He's trying to chase down his teammate as they try to make a charge toward the front, where Jeff Emig has settled into the top spot. There's John Dowd, who has settled into second. And let's see, Jeremy McGrath, they've actually put a little distance on Jeremy McGrath from the last time that we took a look at this battle.
Well, he's still pretty close. I mean, this just could be a section of the track where maybe he loses a little bit of time, and he'll make that back up. He's still in striking distance. That's all that matters.
Well, Jeff Emig is trying to win his first outdoor 250 national. Remember, at Hangtown, he won the first moto, and Kedrowski wound up getting the overall with the tiebreaker. Well, how's Emig doing right now? Let's check into his pits.
Well, Steve, Jeff is attacking this track like it was his last day on Earth. He's really all out.
Yeah, it looks like he's just trying to get away from him, but Dowdy, being a local here, seems to have some pretty good lines, and he's hanging right there. Still a long ways to go, but I guess there's no better place to be right now.
Well, it's a little weird seeing you and Dowd's mechanic conversing here, very cool with one another, while out on the track they're battling for first place.
Yeah, actually, we're talking about how they got their good starts. It seemed to work good, whatever that was they done. So
good luck, Steve.
Thank you.
I guess what Steve's saying right there is not mechanical. It was actually the riders who got off to that great start. It didn't have anything to do with how he set it up.
Well, it seems like they both have a pretty good setup, and if they can get off to good starts like this, that just looks good for the team. And I don't really think that the mechanics care that much if their rider gets first or second. If these guys could swap moto wins or just finish 1-2, however, I think they'd be, pretty happy with that.
Right now, Jeremy McGrath's got to be happy as he's riding along in third. Still has Jeff Emig inside. Of course, Emig trailing McGrath by 13 points in the race for the national championship. Emig right now is leading on your Suzuki field summary. As you get a look at the rest of the top 10, we'll be back with more after this. David, it looks like McGrath is kind of taking it easy, and we mentioned it's very hot and humid here. It's got to be tough on the riders. The sandy surface, is Jeremy saving himself?
I think so. He's riding, conservatively. He's jumping over certain holes. He's trying to pick the smoothest line he can. And if he can do all that and in his mind conserve energy and still stay within sight of these guys, I think that's a pretty good strategy for him. He didn't do all that well here last year, and I think I don't think he's threatened by these guys. I think he thinks he can catch him at the later stages of the moto and probably beat him in the second moto, especially if he has more energy.
Hey, you speak of energy, this trail, look, Jeremy, a little bit of a problem right there. But this track, even without the heat and humidity with the sand, is very demanding, isn't it?
Oh, he works you to death. Everywhere on the track, you're fighting the bike. Right there, he's getting, he's sliding through the corner because he didn't hit the line he wanted to hit. It's rough all through here. You've got to, pick the best lines possible, and it's tough to find them. You always find yourself, I've never done that well here, and I never could really get my lines together. I always wanted to be on the other side of the racetrack, and right now, Jeremy's just searching to find those lines to save as much energy as he can, and it could be a mistake because these guys right here are just going for it, and wherever they end up is where they end up, and as a result, they're going quite a bit faster.
Right now, it looks like John Dowd is trying to go even faster as he tries to chase down his teammate. Let's check into his pits with Art.
Well, Brian, a good start always helps on this track, and he's never had better than a third. I wonder if he can hold on to second.
Well, I think his game plan was not to hole shot this race, even though he kind of did there for a second. I think he's right where he wants to be right now.
Got Jeremy up his back, and Emig out in front, but Emig's not posing any hold-up threat.
Not right now. No, he's just following. I think he's building a little confidence, and hopefully his New England sand experience will help him in the end.
Well, there's a look at that experience right there as John Dowd keeps his momentum and runs that high line right there. Another little trick up his sleeve that Emig doesn't know about, and I'm sure he's got a few more around this racetrack that he knows extremely well.
You don't think he's sharing his secrets of this track with his teammate?
I doubt it.
I can't imagine you guys holding back information from your teammates.
That's all we ever do. We don't want anybody to know anything.
Well, right now, John Dowd, who knows this track very, very well, is trying to chase down Jeff Emig. But, man, I tell you, I am very impressed with the way Emig is riding. Last year, not that good a ride for Emig here. He finished 11th overall. Of course, that was on a 125. Any difference why he could ride a 250 better here?
Well, it could be the start. I don't remember how Emig gated here last year, but if you don't get a good start on a 125, you can ride great and end up 11th. And a hole shot here has definitely helped him. And now I notice that McGrath has started to close on these guys just a little bit. So nearing the end of this moto, McGrath is he's had an agenda to catch these guys.
Well, Jeremy McGrath said at the beginning of this year he wanted to be in a lot better shape for the outdoor series and hired a trainer, and that has apparently helped him out. As he has looked very strong. Even when he's not felt that well, he's looked very strong in the second half of these motos. But speaking of looking strong, there is Jeff Emig, and he is the picture of strength right now as he's put a little distance on Dowd in that little bit of a high-speed turn there.
Well, he's also the picture of clean. He hasn't had to follow anybody other than a few lappers, and if you look at Dowd, he's just covered with sand. You know that's in his pants and boots. His boots are probably about a size 7 now, and it's tougher when you have to follow somebody the whole race. I've done it before, followed people, and it ended up in my goggles at one point, and then I couldn't see. So you definitely want to make your move if you can, not eat too much sand.
Yeah, but aren't you guys concentrating so much that you don't really notice it?
Oh, you notice it. To a certain extent you don't, but But towards the end of the moto, when you start getting tired, you get a little crankier, and everything starts to bother you. And the sand it's a real nuisance.
Right now, we're winding into the second half. There you see some of the hometown crowd cheering on John Dowd. Remember, I told you it looked like Emig had pulled away on that high-speed portion? Well, as they come down through these turns, he has now closed the gap and within striking distance, and they're coming up on a lapped rider. We'll have to see how he plays into, oh, look at that. He slows Emig way down, and Dowd catches up, but he's unable to take advantage of that. Although he's right now in a spot where he wants to be, he can catch Emig. If Emig makes a mistake, he can make the pass. There you get a good look at the top 5 in our Suzuki Field Summary. Emig continues to lead John Dowd, and Jeremy McGrath. Greg Albertine is riding along in 4th. Back with more from Southwick in a moment. Riding tip.
Part of the success in winning championships.
McGrath riding along in 3rd.
And McGrath is still within striking distance. He kind of fluctuates. He drops back a little and he gains a little bit. These guys are going fast. It's towards the end of the race. And look at that, how close they go to the mechanics. Almost hit the signal board to try to find a smooth line. And McGrath, as we mentioned before, I think he's been riding to try to save energy. And I think I would have done the same thing in his position. I don't think he had the speed and didn't really want to use the energy that would have taken to try to pass these guys in the beginning of the race. But in the final 10-15 minutes of the race, he can put on a charge and possibly make his move. Tether them out there. If they make a mistake and hand it to you, take it. But if they're still out there in the final 10 minutes, there's plenty of time to go out there and put on a pass.
Well, of course, we always talk about Jeremy McGrath, 3 Supercross championships at near halfway through a national outdoor championship. But I've been really impressed with Jeff Emig. First year on a 250, and listen to this, David. 4th at Gainesville, 2nd at Hangtown, 5th at Mount Morris, 4th at Budds Creek. That's pretty good consistency in your first year.
Oh, it is, and it really doesn't reflect how well he's done in each of the individual motos either. He's won some motos, and he's led a lot of the races. So I think that his confidence is building, and with this, with him leading as long as he's led in this moto, he's got to be getting pretty strong and sick and tired of seeing Jeremy out front.
Well, there you get a good look at Jeremy, who's not out front right now. He's riding along in the 3rd spot. Of course, he's the first repeat winner overall this year with Gainesville and Budds Creek in the overall positions. But he's riding along in 3rd. And let's check into his pits, see what's going on with Art Ekman.
Tough track to pass on if the leaders keep their speed up, and the pace has been furious.
Yeah, the pace is good, and actually he's in a great spot. He's behind John Dowd. He can watch what he's going. Hopefully, when we get around the 10-minute mark, he's going to put a sprint in and see if he can't just catch these guys off guard and pick the pace up maybe a second and a half a lap. But the lappers are going to play a big part in that story working out.
Right now, he's got a nice, smooth motion.
Yeah, the first 3 guys are riding their own races. They haven't started racing each other yet. I think they're feeling each other out and feeling the track out, but I think things are going to change here in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, there goes my stopwatch, David. Man, that is just the mark of confidence, and success breeds confidence, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, I don't think the 10-minute mark is really any secret that I have. But my mechanic used to do that for me. I mean, in fact, I asked him to, because that's sort of a key point in the race, whether you're in the lead or anywhere, trying to make a move on people. And it's obviously that's what Skip's got up his sleeve, and he sounds pretty confident that his rider can do the job.
But you look at Jeremy there on that shot going in, and he has kind of lost a little bit of contact there. We'll get a good look at the separation. Finally, Jeremy comes over about 4 to 3 seconds behind John Dowd.
Well, you could see as he came up the hill there, he tried to jump a hole. I mean, Jeremy's putting his Supercross techniques to work here on this rough track, because the bumps are so big, you can almost treat them as whoop-de-doos and time them and jump, over some of the bumps and use bumps, some of the braking bumps you see going into the corners right here. Big mistake there. He just let the back end get away from him. But you see how much they stand, and Jeremy doesn't seem to have the rhythm that he had earlier in the race. Now, maybe he is tired, or maybe everybody's tired, but I don't see the effects on Jeff Emig and Dowd right now like I do on Jeremy. He looks tired.
When you've got that rhythm going early on and then something happens, you make a mistake and you break the rhythm, how hard is it to get it back?
You don't usually. And not on a day this hot and humid on a track this rough. And you see Jeremy's getting showered by these lappers, all the sand in the corners, and he's going fast, but just not fast enough, and I don't think that rhythm that he had earlier is still with him.
McGrath riding along now in 3rd, which wouldn't be a bad place to finish here in Moto number 1, as he is trying to hold off the likes of Greg Albertine, who's riding in 4th, as you get a look at the top 5 in our Suzuki Field Summary. He has moved up into the 5th spot. Remember, he got off to a typical typically bad start, unlike at Budds Creek where he got the whole shot in Moto 1 on his first ride back and won Moto #1. Right now he's looking more like the old Mike.
Well, yeah, with the bad start, that is. And I think in Mike's defense, he's coming back from breaking an arm and having an operation and pins and all that mess. And Southwick has got to be next to probably Unadilla, one of the roughest tracks these guys are going to encounter all year long. So maybe he's just not up to snuff just yet with that arm.
Well, I'm sure it's still quite sore for him, and up and down the way you have, the physical way you have to ride the bike here has got to be very tough on him. There you get a good look at his father, Mike Sr., and he's not very happy as he clicks the stopwatch and notes the lap time.
Well, he's obviously unhappy, and you know, I have to wonder here, what is LaRocco's game plan? I mean, he can't win the title. The points are too far gone for him to have any kind of an effect on the title there. So you know, possibly all they want to do is have him in a position in this first moto to get an overall win, try to win some races, just build some steam for next year. That's all he can hope for.
Well, speaking of building up some steam, look at the head of steam that Greg Albertine has as he tries to chase down Jeremy McGrath. Now, we noted before we went to break that Jeremy looks like he's not riding quite as fast as he was, not as smoothly as he was, and Albertine has closed the gap. And as we get late in this moto, looks like Albie has his sights set on the third spot.
Well, Albertine is known to ride a fast pace for the whole moto, and he's definitely tough enough to do it. McGrath relies a little bit more on timing and finesse, and on a track like this, if you make a few mistakes, which we saw Jeremy do, bottomed out in a few of those pits, and he let the front end get away from him, the back end got away from him. And when you make some mistakes like that, as you mentioned before, John, you fall out of your rhythm. It's really tough to get that back. And right now, while he's trying to find his rhythm, he's got pressure from Albertine. That's going to make it even tougher.
How does this track compare to some of the ones that Albertine would have raced on over in Europe?
A lot. Oh, it's tough to say. I haven't raced that much in Europe. I know they've got some sand tracks. Sweden and Finland are very similar to this. It's humid over there, and sand is, you know, it's just as rough as this. But typically in Europe, you ride on lousy tracks. You know, there's rocks. They're narrow. The start is, you know, mile long, and it funnels into a 20-foot wide first turn. I mean, you cross streets sometimes, and maybe I'm getting to the extreme, but there have been, you know, several cases of racetracks where you got, you know, creeks running through them, a tree in the middle, and Albertine's just tough. He's not what I call one of the spoiled Americans, and I speak for myself as well when I say that.
Well, right now, Albertine is looking at the rear fender of Jeremy McGrath. He cuts it to the inside, trying to pick up a little momentum. And look, Jeremy, a mistake on the landing there as he almost went over the handlebars, and that's got to play some head games in it. Look at that. It opens the door, I think, for Albertine coming along the inside, and yes, Albie moves along into that third spot. Man, it looked like Jeremy almost came over the bike there.
Well, you can't really tell by the camera angle. I mean, the camera doesn't show everything, but that is a steep drop off into that pit. I mean, you go into it blind, and he just landed in a hole, bottomed out. That's the second time I've noticed that he made that mistake. He also made that when we were talking to his mechanic a little earlier. So a lot of mistakes. Possibly he just doesn't have the bike set up right, or he's just out of his rhythm. When you get tired, you start to get lazy, and you drop the front end in the wrong places, and that's the price you pay.
Well, they're not lazy up front. Look at this battle for the lead as John Dowd being cheered on by the hometown crowd goes to the inside of Emig. Emig is along the outside, and Emig just barely holding off John Dowd. The last few minutes here are going to be very, very intense. Dowd searching out the lines that he knows best around this track as he tries to get the victory in Moto #1.
Well, he's all over him, and that's that's what you've got to do. That's all he can hope to do. He's been back there, and now he's got him, Emig looking over his shoulder. Dowd starting to take different lines. The crowd gets into it, and each time that Dowd takes another line and the crowd reacts, Emig's got to wonder, well, is he making time there on the next lap? Should I take that line? And once he starts thinking your race, your chances of passing him are pretty good.
But Emig can't keep an eye on Dowd to see exactly which lines he's using, as Dowd can look at Emig. And look at Dowd there as he points ahead. What was that all about?
Actually, he was just reaching up, and he's using the roll-off system where you have a string, and when you pull that, it gives you clear vision. Now, sometimes when you yank it once, it only goes about halfway across. So he just wanted to make sure he got it all the way through there.
Well, Dowd has one lap to go. There you see one of the fans along the corner telling him to go, go, go. It's time to go and show as Emig is leading. But the hometown fans would like to see John Dowd take the checkered flag.
Right now, it looks like Emig has just put on one final push and opened the gap just a little bit. Possibly Dowd is just spent. That's all he can give, and
looks like it slipped away from him in this final couple hundred yards to the checkered flag. And as we got a look at just before at Dowd, you could see how dirty he was, and just covered with sand and sweat, and he's spent. And Emig looks pretty fresh right here. He's got to be happy.
Well, Dowd has certainly put on a show for the hometown fans. They have gotten their money's worth in Moto 1, and they've got another Moto plus the 125s to watch. Checkered flag is out. Jeff Emig capturing his second 250 outdoor Moto of the season. Remember, he won Moto #1 at Hangtown. Dowd finishes second, followed by Albertine, McGrath, and LaRocco. As you get a look at the rest of the top 10, Art Ekman is downstairs with our winner.
Jeff, I think the commendable thing is that you kept your pace, the pace of a leader. You were focused out front, not looking behind.
Yeah, that's that's what we were working on, is not looking back. I knew that it was Dowdy there. I didn't know if McGrath was still there. I figured that we would shake him. I felt really comfortable and really confident, the whole race, and we made some drastic improvements to the YZ250 to make it work in this sand. And and I'd just like to thank the team. They've done a great job for me.
A great crowd on hand here at Southwick, Massachusetts. Back with Moto #2 after this. Key flashback. And we flash back all the way to last year, June 26, 1994. A battle of two Mikes here at Southwick, although after this log jam at the start, it would be a Honda rider, Jeremy McGrath, who would get the whole shot and move out in front.
But just like all the other races, it didn't last long. McGrath faded at the end, let the two Mikes by.
First, it was Kedrowski getting by in a heated battle with McGrath. Although he makes it look a little bit easy, Kedrowski, the defending national champion, would win Moto #1, while his teammate, Mike LaRocco, would come home in second place. Moto #2, they line up once again, going for the all-important hole shot. This time, the two Mikes would battle it out as LaRocco gets way out in front, while his teammate has to play a little bit of catch-up.
And just like in Moto #1, Kedrowski out jumping McGrath for the lead, flies all the way to the bottom of that drop-off, and he wouldn't look back.
Kedrowski setting his sights on the #1 spot, goes up against LaRocco. They touch, and Kedrowski goes down.
Kedrowski being a little polite there to his teammate. He could have gone in there and cleaned his clock, but instead he ended up on the ground. That later turned out to be a battle.
Well, LaRocco getting first, a 2-1 for the overall victory here at Southwick last year. Jeremy, not too bad a ride, although he did say between Motos and Moto 1, he got a little bit tired there at the end after he almost went over. He kind of lost it. Albertine got around to finish in third place. A good ride for him. And LaRocco coming along in 5th spot in Moto #1.
You can see by his eyes there, he doesn't look too happy. He looks like he's ready to go out and do battle. McGrath changed the setup of his bike. He set up the suspension a little stiffer, said he was bottoming out too much.
Now they're getting set. The bike's firing up on that concrete launching pad. The gate drops. They'll go up the hill. Let's see who comes out in front. Look at that. Emig off to another quick start. Jeremy right behind him. And Todd DeHoop also getting a good start. Remember, he got a great start in Moto #1.
Right, and there's Jeremy McGrath, John Dowd side by side. Dowd's got the better line. And DeHoop is going to really, he's in a sandwich here. These are the three fastest riders from the first moto, and he's right in the middle of it all.
But look at Jeffro right there at the point. And you could also see Dowd. Remember, I asked David on the last lap what Dowd was doing. He's got that roll away already. Early on in this first lap, he's already rolling through some of the film on his goggles. Now he's going to try and make the pass on Emig, but he just can't get the traction to make it stick.
Boy, this is a deja vu. It's the same exact three spots. The same thing is going on. The only thing is now LaRocco and some of the other riders have gotten better starts, so maybe there'll be more of a challenge this time.
Now, as well as Emig rode in the first moto, would you go in and change anything, or would you leave the bike the same way?
No, I just put gas in that thing, change the air filter, and try to do the same thing as I did in the first moto, and so far he's done it. He's off to a clean start, and already they seem to have opened up a little lead on Jeremy, and Dowd once again is going to be covered with sand, and as you mentioned, already reaching up for the tearaways to try to keep his vision clear.
Well, Emig has to have the confidence, just unlimited amount of confidence right now as he picked up the first moto win. He's off out in front the whole shot this time. He's got to be feeling pretty good, even though we're on the first lap.
Well, he better be feeling good, because right in that shot there, you see the two Kawasaki riders, Mike and Mike. These guys know how to go fast here at Southwick, and you can bet if they've got him in sight, they'll challenge.
Well, Emig now leading once again, just like moto number 1 in the early stages. McGrath riding along in third, except you saw Kedrowski, the number 7 Kawasaki, and the number 1 of LaRocco. There you get a good look at Brian Barry, Dowd's mechanic, and he's telling him to relax. Very important message right now.
Well, I think so. Sometimes, you know, you get in the battle, you can hear the crowd is into it. All the good riders are up there with good starts, and you kind of get nervous, and you actually forget to breathe. And a simple signal like that to relax kind of reminds you, okay, you know, let me try to relax and still do the same amount of work, and it works. And right there, boy, Emig just cutting the line off of Dowd. He senses where everyone is, and he's pretty good at getting over there and getting in people's way, and there he does it again on the downhill.
Well, Dowd heard the crowd cheering for him in moto number 1. He finished second. Now he's trying his best as he looks over his shoulder, trying to see where McGrath is. He's still setting his sights right there on Emig. Dowd, you got to believe, wants to early in this moto get around Emig because he ran out of steam in moto number 1 in the late stages. And look at the fans. They're loving this. This is great racing.
This is a great battle. A little narrow section of the track right there where the crowd can get in there on both sides and cheer their riders on.
We're in the early stages of moto number 2. You get a look at the top 10 on our Honda field summary. We'll be right back. It's 3:38, Southwick, Massachusetts. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kernan. Nothing has changed. John Dowd still trying to chase down his Yamaha teammate, Jeff Emig.
Well, I think Dowd is actually faster than Jeff Emig. I thought he was in the first moto, but he just couldn't seem to find the right line and rhythm to get around his teammate. Now that he's had a chance between motos to think it out, through it a little bit more clearly, maybe he's got something up his sleeve. And I think, you know, by the looks of Dowd, he's riding a lot more aggressive. I think his mechanic's trying to calm him down. If he can get around Emig, he's going to pull away.
I just wonder how pumped up Dowd was after that first moto. Even though he didn't win, look at that. He goes right up against Emig, side by side. Emig manages to hold him off, but look at Dowd cut along the inside and takes the lead as he carried Emig way out on that berm. John Dowd with an excellent move.
Well, Emig blocked Dowd quite a few times. I mean, they are teammates. I don't think he did anything dirty, but we're going to get another look at it. Emig just cut across, took the line away. I don't think Dowd wanted to have any more of that. He goes, here, take this. Takes him wide, almost over the berm. Emig did a good job of saving that. His front wheel drifted just over the top of that. He could have fallen right there pretty easily.
How close were they both to falling right there, you think?
Well, Dowd was all under control, but Emig got up to the top of that berm, and that's where that sand gets real loose, and the front end can dive over there, and then you're over the handlebars.
Well, I was thinking if Emig went down, he was at a position where he might have knocked Dowd down too, but man, Dowd, what a move, and that allowed Jeremy McGrath to move in just a little bit closer. But John Dowd is at the points, and Art Ekman is with his mechanic.
Just about the time I was saying, hey, this is the same scenario as moto number 1, John makes a great pass.
Well, he definitely got a little ticked off eating all that roost in the last moto, so I think he wants to lead for a little while, and hopefully he'll be strong enough to stay there the whole race.
So what do you think? Dowd have the strength?
Oh, I think he's got the strength, and for the overall, I mean, the way it sits right now, the only guy that's really a threat would be Emig, and I think he's stronger than Emig and a little maybe mentally tougher, especially he's got the advantage. It's his home court.
Right now, Jeremy McGrath making a move on Emig, relegates him to the 3rd spot. Jeremy took the inside line. Emig went to the outside, and Jeremy scoots around. Man, what's going through Emig's head right now?
Well, all these guys are. One right after the other. So that speed and rhythm and everything that he had working for him in the first moto is not there. We saw it happen to Jeremy in the first moto, so it can happen to the best. And right now, Emig's got more problems. These 3 riders right here are hauling, and they're going to be on his back fender in a minute.
This is 4th, 5th, and 6th. LaRocco is in 4th. Then it's Kedrowski, followed by Greg Albertine.
Well, Emig's got company. It looks like everybody that moves around Emig is able to pull away, and now Emig has got to try to regroup and regroup fast because these 3 guys are gaining on him quick, and it's difficult to ride. He can ride pretty defensive. We've seen him ride a wide bike, and you see in that corner right there, a lot of the corners here in Southwick, because of the sand, become kind of a one-line situation, so it's tough to pass.
Well, LaRocco is closing in on Emig. We should see him challenge for that spot very shortly. LaRocco is really coming through the field. Like you said, what'd you say, they're hauling it?
Yeah, well, you saw a determined look on LaRocco's face at the starting line. He always looks pretty determined, but I think a little extra that time, and it's starting to show on the racetrack now.
Well, right now he sees Jeff Emig, and he smells 3rd place. LaRocco trying to work his way toward the front, and just look how much he closed the gap there, David. I mean, LaRocco was a good several seconds behind Emig, but right now he is right on his tail. And there's Albertine, who's having just a little bit of a problem right there, it looked like. But now you get a good shot There you saw Emig come through the picture. There's Kudrowski. LaRocco's already gone through. LaRocco's really cut in to that margin.
Well, LaRocco on a good day can cut into anybody's margin. And right now, the only question in my mind is how much pain does he have in that arm, and how much endurance has he lost as a result of that recovery process.
Well, we know it's very sore for him. He's talked about that with several reporters. How it's still quite sore, but he's out there giving it all he's got, and you got to believe he sees a position. It's going to take a little bit of that pain away.
Well, right now, there's no evidence that he's riding in any pain at all. I mean, it's just a question in the later stages of the moto. But right now, he has caught Jeff Emig, and I think that's probably the only thing on his mind right now. And you see Emig going for that rougher inside line while LaRocco goes around and saves some energy.
I guess you could call that vintage LaRocco as he rides the first half of the moto, conserving energy, and then hangs it all out in the second half. He is trying to chase down the third spot. He's currently in fourth. Emig is in third, and it just looks like Emig is having a lot more trouble negotiating the track here in the second moto.
Well, what we got to remember is that there's been 125s out here. Oh,
look at
wow.
that. LaRocco sweeping around, making the pass. He takes over that third spot, and it looks like he just caught Jeff Emig sleeping. Well, LaRocco's moved into third. Art Ekman is in his pit.
Mike just making the pass on Jeff Emig. He really set him up nicely in the corner.
Yeah, he did. That was a gutsy move. He needed to get by Jeff because Jeff slows him up a little bit too much. He lost a couple of seconds being behind him.
I was going to say, Jeff Emig was using that protect the track tactics on him most of the way there.
That's his normal tactic. He just got back by him. So it's just he's an idiot. You can quote me on that.
You can touch that. Okay?
We will quote you on that.
We just did, Mike.
You know, a lot of people don't like the way that Emig rides, and well, it's his prerogative. If he's got the line, he can control and go wherever he wants on the racetrack. If that means blocking, well, he's probably one of the best. And when he's behind, he'll try and find an opening and ride through it. And he found a pretty creative line back there. I don't think LaRocco likes it in there. I think he's going to get the final say.
Well, LaRocco has moved into the third position. John Dowd continues to lead Moto number 2 as you get a good look at our top 10 on the Honda Field Summary. Notice Damon Bradshaw has worked his way into the top 10. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kernan back at Motocross 338, Southwick, Massachusetts. And the battle up front has really closed. McGrath coming on strong. They made some adjustments on the bike. Remember, it was too soft in the first moto, and he is caught up with John Dowd.
Well, he was pretty tired after the first moto, and he did make some changes, and maybe it's paid off. Although he hasn't made a pass, he's been looking at the back of John Dowd all day long. A big mistake by Dowd right there.
Look at that. Dowd to the outside makes the mistake, and McGrath sweeps around and takes the lead. Dowd trying to come along the outside, but no, he just can't make it happen right there. Jeremy McGrath has taken over the point. How many times have we seen this happen this year?
Well, not that much in the outdoors like we have in the Supercross. He's getting better, though. His foot slipped off the peg in that corner right there. It wasn't really that much of a mistake, and he handled it nice, and looks like he's already got a little breathing room here on Dowd, which is good because Dowd's the kind of rider that can retaliate right away, and that'll sort of take the wind out of your sails, you know, that of McGrath. But right here, he looks like he's comfortable. He's jumping that little off that braking bump, pitching it sideways and landing going down the hill. Some of that Supercross technique going into work there.
A little bit back in the field, the fourth position. Greg Albertine is holding it down. A nice ride in Moto number 1. He's now trying to chase down and get around LaRocco. Coming out of the corner, he hits LaRocco, and Albie flies off the bike. Man, what a tough break there. You see Jeff Emig comes around, and you see just how much time Emig had lost. Albertine, man.
Well, look at this. He comes into him. I don't know if he's trying to pass him or if they just got their wires crossed a little bit right there, but definitely getting the short end of the stick. LaRocco just didn't even budge on that one. Probably didn't even affect him at all. He's pretty solid. And now we got problems with Dowd. He's riding around slow.
Dowd waving.
See what's wrong.
Holding his hand up to the fans as if to say, I'm sorry, but something's wrong with the bike. I can't go any faster. So what a heartbreaker for John Dowd.
So this Southwick track started to take its toll on a few riders at the later stage of the second moto, and I can't figure out what's happened to Dowd. If he'd have fallen, he'd have gotten up and kept going, so I'm going to have to assume that's something wrong with the bike.
What a heartbreaker for Dowd. Right now, LaRocco has moved into the second spot. He's trying to chase down Jeremy McGrath, who has gotten out to the point. McGrath looking for his fourth moto victory of the season.
And just when things were looking bad for Emig, Albertine crashes, and then problems with Dowd, so that's going to put Emig in third place in this moto. So with a 1-3, his closest competitor is going to be McGrath, who was 4th in the first moto. So even if he wins this moto, the overall is still going to go to Emig if things stay the way they are.
So Emig can now concentrate on just riding his lines and not so much concentrate on trying to catch LaRocco and get around him, because third place is good enough for the overall.
Right. If he drops a position, it's over, because McGrath will win in a tie. So it looks like, you know, although Emig was riding pretty lousy in the beginning of the race and lost a lot of positions, I'm sure they're going to let him know what's going on, and he'll realize he's in an overall position. And the only threat to him right now that I can see would be Kudrowski, who's back there, you know, not close enough to do anything about him, but close enough to worry about.
Well, the field has sort of gotten separated right now. It was really great at the front with McGrath and Dowd, but Dowd having a problem with the bike is what we're guessing. We're going to try and get Art Ekman to check into that. Maybe he can find out for us and let us know what's going on. Right now, as you see LaRocco come down that jump around the bend, wait and see just how far Emig is behind. There's a rider, another rider, and well, we're still waiting, and finally Jeff Emig comes in, so I don't think Emig is going to seriously challenge for that second spot. It looks like he's going to be satisfied with the third place, which of course, as David pointed out, would give him the overall. There you get a good look at our top 10 from the Honda Field Summary. Back with more in a moment. Southwick McGrath is the leader, a good lead over LaRocco. And David, the word from the pits, broken shock for John Dowd.
Well, that's pretty disappointing, and you couldn't have picked a worse track to break a shock. I mean, in some tracks you could probably still ride around and do okay, but here there's no way. You see how rough it is for McGrath right there, and he's just riding slow.
Riding slow. Doesn't look slow to me, but I guess it's slower than what he rode earlier.
Well, it's impressive to me that McGrath has this kind of a lead over LaRocco, because they were together in the beginning, and the only problem really that LaRocco had was just in that lap or two little battle he had with Emig. But right here, McGrath is riding very relaxed and has plenty of distance over LaRocco, and that's a pretty convincing win for him.
Well, I know you hate to hear this, but I've been quite impressed with Jeremy this year in the outdoor circuit. I mean, we all know what a great Supercross rider he is, but man, he's really impressed me.
Well, yeah, I don't hate to hear it, but I would like to see a challenge. I'd like to see Albertine up in there. I wished, you know, with all my heart, that Doug Henry could be out there too. This guy hasn't lost a moto in a national here, and I think that it would have been good for the crowd and good for the competition for him to be up in there.
Well, once again, want to send a hello to Doug, and glad that he's home recuperating, and he's doing better. Right now, his teammate Jeremy McGrath is doing great on this final lap. It's like, what more can you say about McGrath here? He's got such a lead. Comes around Phil Lawrence. Finally, the checkered flag is out. Jeremy can celebrate the victory, but the real race is for Jeff Emig, who had third locked up. If he holds on to it, will become the overall winner. There you get a good look at the top 5, and yes, Emig with the third place finish, good enough for the overall. As we take a look at the rest of the top 10, Jeremy McGrath is with Art Ekman.
Jeremy, a great ride in exhausting conditions, but you picked your pass perfect.
Yeah, I was waiting for a while to make my pass. I really actually didn't know I was going to make the pass. And, you know, it's just kind of one of those things. Those guys slowed up, and I had a good line and passed them.
Is this one of the tougher rides you've had to ride this season as far as the conditions are concerned? Because it got very, very bumpy out there as well.
Most definitely. The track is really rough here at South.